can't travel anymore once you have kids, but I disagree. I've always loved visiting new places and exploring, and it hasn't changed even after having kids. All it takes is a little bit more time to plan and to prep to make things as smooth as possible. So today I'm going to share what we've been doing to have a good experience traveling even with little kids. I'll show you how I pack for a trip, our car ride essentials, and my top tips on how to manage with two littles. So first, let's get into the packing. I'm going to divide this part into the packing essentials and the packing optionals. So the first and probably most obvious one is a diaper bag. Make sure that you have a good diaper bag. The size is going to depend on how long you're going to be out. So if you're just going for a day trip or something short, then obviously you can get away with a smaller bag. But if you're going to be away for a longer period of time, then you're obviously going to need a bigger bag to be able to fit everything that you need. So this is our smaller diaper bag. I have this thing for pacifier here. It's so cute. And I think it gives the bag a little bit of something because otherwise it's super plain. But it's actually not really meant for being a diaper bag, but we're just using it as a diaper bag because it fits the bill. It's nice because it has these a pocket here, and then like side things here, so you can put umbrellas or water bottles in there. And we usually use it for water bottles for us when we're traveling. And then at the back, it has this type of zipper, which is nice because when it's in your back, then nobody can actually access your stuff because it's like this is flush on your back then, so they can't really, it's difficult to get anything from it, which is nice. And then usually what we have here is like a set of change of clothes for both of the girls. And then I have this little tablet thingy for my toddler that is just permanently in this bag. And this is really cool if you don't have it yet because it's really just like for her to use. And you can just like write on here. There's like a pen in here as well that you can use to write on. So it's super easy, so fuss-free. If you have a toddler who loves drawing or writing and stuff and gets bored like in the car or in a restaurant or something, this is so perfect for that. So we always just have it here, and she doesn't get access to this at home, so she only has this when we're out, and that makes it more interesting for her because she only sees it then. I have like a random waffle in here, but I normally fill this with snacks still. Otherwise, if there's no space to put snacks inside, if we have a lot of things in there, then I would put, if we need to bring a lot of snacks, then I would bring like a separate cooler bag for the snacks. But otherwise, if it's just something short, then we don't need too much snacks, and I just put them all there. But it fits that, it fits this. I also have this thing for the baby's change of nappies. So here you have like the changing mat, and then here is for the wipes, and then here there's another pocket for the diapers. We need to refill this with more diapers. We usually put like 2 or 3 diapers in here. And then here there's like a little pocket we put the bum cream. And here's another pocket that we don't actually use, but it's there if you need it. And it's super handy because it's just like this. And I find it super handy when we're outside because I sometimes would just leave this diaper bag in, for example, if we're in a restaurant, I'll just leave this diaper bag in our table, and then I'll just take this one with me going to the bathroom together with the baby, and then I have everything I need for a diaper change, and I can just use it like that. It's much easier than having to go through your whole bag and bringing the whole bag with you. So I can also just take this one and put it in any diaper bag that we're using on that day, and it's just so helpful, so convenient. And then usually on the day, like I said, we put like water bottles here as well. And then we also put some extra toys here for the baby and the toddler if we need them. and that's basically what's in our diaper bag. We also need to add a change of clothes for me and my husband as well. So we also have snacks for both kids and for us as well. We also have a sanitizer in here. And I think we also have like a plastic bag in here for when there's like accidents or things like that. And we also have like an extra bag, like an extra cloth bag for if we're going to buy some things outside or so and we need to put them in a bag and we don't have any other space, then we have that. What else do we have here? Oh, I also have like another activity for my toddler, like a coloring book thing here with stickers. And yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff we have. Some tissues. It's pretty small. We have this one, and we also have like a bigger version, a bigger diaper bag. It's not the same version, but a bigger diaper bag that we use for when we need to go away longer and we need much more stuff in our diaper bag, and we use that. But for short trips, date trips, things like that, then we use this one. Aside from a diaper bag, you're also going to need some toys. The best ones to bring for travel are the easy cleanup toys, which are not going to be messy or very little mess as much as possible. Very important as well are snacks for everybody and a carry potty for toddlers. So a carry potty is something that you can bring when you're in a car ride. So even if your toddler suddenly needs to go to the potty and there's nowhere else that you can go potty in, it's easy to have because it's very compact and it's very practical for when you're on the go, because you can just bring it where you're going to be and then they can just directly pee in it, and then you can just throw the pee when you get to a bathroom or on the grass. For the optional part of packing, I included here a little chair that you can assemble and disassemble for a toddler or a baby who can sit. And this is not something that we have, but I've seen so many people recommend this, and I'm going to insert a picture right here because I've seen a lot of people recommend it, saying that it's super helpful for them, especially if they're in a beach or if they're like in a picnic or something. Then they can just put their toddler or their baby on there to sit, and it's so much easier than having them on the floor. But it's totally optional because obviously it takes up a little bit of space and sometimes we just need to pack light. If it's raining or if it's too sunny, a rain cover or sun cover for your strollers, and obviously the stroller itself or a carrier depending on where you're going. And if you're using an iPad with some preloaded games and shows. And then some things to prep beforehand are a playlist for in the car. I find it super helpful when you have a playlist in your car, like your favorite songs and tunes to blast in the car. Maybe your toddler's favorite songs will help appease them if they're getting bored. And so I think it's very nice to have a playlist for in the car if you have especially a long car ride. It might be very helpful. Obviously, you would need to prepare the food, the sandwiches, the fruit that you would want to bring, and all the snacks and all the drinks and water and things like that. If you're pumping or you're using formula, obviously you're going to need the milk and the bottles and all of these things for baby. And if you're going on an overnight trip, obviously you're going to need to bring some things for washing the bottles and maybe dishwashing soap and the brush, the cleaning brush as well. Make sure that you're also prepping your diaper bag beforehand, because it's happened to me before that I just assumed that my diaper bag is ready because we just have it like packed and ready there usually, and I apparently didn't have the right size of clothes for baby because baby grows up so fast. That was quite inconvenient, and luckily it wasn't such a big deal when we were outside. Just quickly check that you have everything you need in your diaper bag. And also to prep beforehand is an itinerary for the day. So if you're going on a day trip, obviously this is going to be a very short itinerary, but it's nice to know kind of like the planning of the day and when things are happening, what time you're going to leave, what time you plan to be back, what time you're going to arrive in your destination, what time you're supposed to leave your destination, what time are you going to have lunch, when are you going to have snacks and things like that. If you have children who are still napping, what time are their nap times, and how can you make sure that if you are taking that into account, making sure that you are keeping watch of the time and things like that. Obviously, it's not necessary, super needed, because not everybody takes that into account, but if you are the type who does, then it's nice to be able to plan it out in advance as well. Something that I've done before when we traveled with our toddler who was still napping is that I tried to keep it in the back of my head so that I can plan for the day and plan accordingly in what activities for the day are going to be that will match with her nap time. And I know it's a little bit too much type A, but I am type A. I've accepted that by now. So I found it quite helpful for myself personally that I have an activity planned for when she's napping, that I know that she can nap nicely during that time while we're doing something else, or that I'm planning our lunch time around her nap, or make sure that she's gonna have lunch first and then nap and things like that, you know? Like just the mom brain logistics that people don't really know until they become moms. Just keeping that in mind for kind of like an itinerary for your trip. And now let's get into the planning part. So planning is key for a successful trip, especially with little ones. The longer the trip, the more thorough planning is needed. For a day trip, you can get away with very minimal planning, but for a trip that's a little bit longer, you're obviously going to need to plan a little bit more and spend a little bit more time just prepping beforehand. So some things that you need to keep in mind when you're planning your trip with your children is, number one, the date and the time of the activity. Just make sure that you're double checking this, because this has happened to me before. Actually, it happened to me before I even had kids. I made a mistake for the time of the activity, and I was a little bit late for the activity. So luckily it was still fine, but you know, you can very easily mistake a date or a time or an hour when you're supposed to be for your activity, and it can really cost you if you just don't double check. So it's very important, very small thing to do, but very important. Next is to double check that you have any passes, any tickets that you need, for that you have all of them ready. Next is, what transportation are you going to use? Are you going to use public transportation? What are the times of your trains or your buses? What are the times that they're going to leave? Do you have enough time in between if you need to transfer? Are you going to be transferring in between during lunchtime or need to have a pit stop? What is the situation for parking if you're using your car, if you're going on a car trip? Make sure that you know what is the situation with the parking, if you need to reserve beforehand, how far is it from the actual activity, and is this possible with your children and things like that. Just some little things to consider transportation wise. Next is eating and restaurants. So just to plan where you're going to be eating, which restaurants are you going to be going into if you are going, or if you're going to pack your food, if you need to pack your food beforehand and you're not going to be eating in restaurants. If you're going on a restaurant, what are the menus that they have available? Maybe most of the restaurants here, at least in Europe, have websites where you can find their menus online. And so sometimes it's very handy to see the menus if you have picky toddlers or things like that, to look into that in advance to know, okay, this is somewhere we can go, or this is somewhere where we shouldn't go, or maybe we should pack some extra food for them, things like that. If you have anybody in your family who has intolerances or allergies, this is especially important to know as well. And then last for planning is to make sure that your toddler, if they're not napping anymore, that they sleep enough the night before, because they're going to be exhausted. And if they are napping, as I mentioned earlier, to try to keep that at the back of your head for your itinerary, so you know when they're going to be napping, and then you really don't want a cranky toddler in your hands. Now some tips for on the day of the trip. Wake up early and go early to be able to go back early. So it's no secret that toddlers and little children, babies, they thrive during the day, and during the night they're much more exhausted. They're much more likely to be able to wake up early than to stay up late. And so it's better to go earlier and then be able to be back on time earlier, rather than the other way around. Next is on the day to make sure that you get up earlier than your children and get yourself completely ready first. Get everything as much as possible ready before waking them up so that everything else is already prepared before they wake up, because if you have children, you know that it's so difficult to be able to get things done when they're running around and trying to get your attention and like trying to ask for your help for this and that. So it's much easier and it's going to go much more smooth if everything else is prepared before you get them up and ready. So I usually like to wake up earlier. Me and my husband wake up earlier, and then we get ourselves fully ready. We get everything else ready as much as possible. We wake them up and then we get them ready, and then we all eat our breakfast and then we head out the door. It's easier said than done. It's usually not that simple when it comes down to it, but this is kind of like the flow that we try to follow as much as we can so that it makes everything much more smooth. And just to make sure, if you're going on a long trip, to have some pit stops for your children, especially little toddlers and little children. So unfortunately, my camera battery decided to die, so that's why this looks a little bit different. But the next step I wanted to share is to make sure that you're adding a pit stop if you're going on a long trip, to be able to play, to be able to stretch their legs, to be able to go potty somewhere, to maybe just eat there, or just be able to run around and play a little bit. It'll make your life so much easier because they're not going to get cranky and demand to be able to play. It'll help to get them a little bit more tired, and hopefully they might even nap on the way there. So next is on the trip itself. So if you're going on an activity somewhere, make sure that you're setting aside some time for your children to play on the trip. So for instance, when we went on a trip to the zoo, I gave a little bit of time for my toddler to be able to play there, because when you're going to the zoo, normally you're just looking at the animals and you're just, you know, exploring the place while just walking with them, and they're having all the fun, you know, looking at the animals and learning all these new things, but they're not able to actually play and like go run off and go to the swings or the slides. You know, it's a little bit different. So luckily the zoo that we went to, they had like a little playground for children. So we were eating then, and then she wanted to go off to play a little bit, so we gave her a few minutes to be able to play, and that helped to quench her thirst for being able to play, and it helped to have her be not so cranky with us during the trip, during the whole day at the zoo. So definitely worth it. For instance, in another trip where we went to Disneyland, we made sure that we also had like some little stops here and there where she can actually play and really like climb on things and slide and things like that, to set aside time for that and not just like go from one ride to the other, because children, they really love just like playing and like, you know, running around and things like that. So just make sure that you're setting aside some time for that. So there you have it. Those are my top tips for having a day trip or short trip with little ones. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I hope that you enjoy this. It's really a little bit more challenging to go travel with little ones. It's definitely not the same as just traveling as an adult or by yourself or with your significant other or friends. And there's more logistics to plan, more things to think about, and more things to pack as well with children, but it's definitely not possible, and it's also definitely not less enjoyable to have children with you. And sometimes it can even be more fun, to be honest. I hope that these tips have been helpful and they will help you with your future trips that you're planning for your children, especially now that it's getting much brighter and sunnier and nicer outside, that we're all going out more and planning more trips for the rest of the year. I hope that this was helpful, especially for short trips. Let me know in the comments below if you have any more questions, or if you would like me to do more videos like this on travel tips for specifically for flying or for train travel or whatever kind of travel that may be. I've done a few travels with my little one already. We've been on, I think, 2 plane rides already, one in another country in Europe, and then another one to the Philippines, so it was a really long haul flight. So I do have several tips that I can share with those things, and I love just traveling and bringing my little ones basically wherever I go. This year we're actually planning several more trips together with them as a family, and it's going to be our first trip, longer trip together with our baby as well, our second, and it's going to be so fun. I'm so excited, and I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, I think with a little bit more planning, putting a little bit more thought into it, it can definitely be such a fun experience, not just for your little ones but for you as well. That's it. Have a great rest of the week, and if you like this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! You will?